Hello, welcome back to Power Squared. In our previous videos, we've shown you how to create a code app and how to wire up your code app to Dataverse and also to the Office 365 users connector. So we're really starting to build a good picture of what the capabilities of code apps are. In this video, we're actually going to refine this code app. We want it to look amazing. We're going to really get into the weeds with design and accessibility. So stay tuned and we'll walk you through it. Okay, Charles. So the first thing that I'm seeing on our wonderful timesheet code app is that horrible Power Apps purple nav bar at the top. It really degrades from the experience of our beautifully dark and moody code app. How do we get rid of that?
It's a bit funny, isn't it? And also, we have our logged in user here. And then when we've vibe coded it, it's also put our logged in user over here on the left. So it doesn't really make sense, does it? So there's currently one way that you can get rid of this, which is in your URL. Just like with a Canvas app, you do ampersand, so and then you do hide nav bar equals true. And then if we press enter, it will reload and we won't have the nav bar. Yeah, so there it's removed the nav bar, which is nice, but you're not going to want to give your users this special link every time. And they might access your app through Office 365 and then it won't hide the nav bar. So that could be annoying for you. So there has been a suggestion made by Scott Giroux where he's said on the GitHub, is there any chance that we could have this done through the code? And it looks like the Power Apps team are going to do it through the code. So hopefully you'll be able to configure it inside of your code app to say, never show the nav bar. And that would be so much nicer.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Just being able to do that from a code point of view and not have to rely on the URL every time, because that's going to fall over at some point with someone, I think. So yeah, that would be great to see. And immediately that's already kind of giving me a better experience with our code app. It's not jarring. It doesn't feel like I'm in a Power App, which is really nice. So what next then? I think there's still some design tweaks that we could do here and actually make some more improvements. One thing I would love to see is a light and dark mode. But Charles, what about you? Have you got any suggestions?
Well, I'm not really the biggest fan of working a 7-day week. So I'd like the weekend removed.
Yeah. How do we go about sorting that out then? Do you think we should ask our friendly AI in our pocket developer?
Let's give it a go, shall we? So currently our app is showing 7 days of the week for timesheets, but we don't want it to display Saturday and Sunday. Please, can you remove these?
I love that speak to AI feature. It just seems to make it a lot more native, doesn't it?
It's so cool.
So what is it doing? Do you want to kind of walk us through what AI is doing for us right now?
Yeah, so because we didn't give it the context of the file, it has to look through the code base to find out where Saturday and Sunday are actually specified. So that's where it's doing this search for those. So it's using a regular expression to find them. So it essentially has to do this research first, like find out where the code is, and then it can understand like how is that code being put together, and then it can figure out, well, what do I need to change in order to do what this person's asking me to do? So it's figured out that it needs to change this app.tsx file. It's added a few lines, removed more, and it's then telling us what it's done. So it's removed Saturday and Sunday from the days array. So that's where it's happening in this days array. You can click on it, it'll show you. So it's removed Saturday and Sunday. And it's also saying that it's going to iterate through 5 days now instead of iterating through 7 days. So even if you're approaching this from a non-technical background, you can probably see that you can basically understand what's going on and it's not actually that scary. You click on the file that it's changed. If you've committed it to your repository, you'll then have this code difference, which is where if it's a red line, it's being removed. If it's a green line, it's being added. So you can understand what the AI agent has done.
That's really cool and a really good point, and being able to see what it's doing kind of as it goes. So you can kind of keep it directed, if you will. So it's really good to see. And I know from experience, when working with things like work weeks and weekdays, particularly in low code, how complicated and how time consuming that can actually be. So seeing AI do it in a matter of minutes It's just mind blowing.
Should we have a look at it?
Yes. The moment of truth.
So sometimes you don't need to reload the app. Sometimes you do. In this instance, we have needed to reload the app. And the agent has removed those days, but you can probably see that there's kind of glaring error with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, great. It's kind of given it as we've explained it to it, but it hasn't really taken into account that, well, there's now this big, massive space in our app. And, space is good, but maybe not like that. It just doesn't look right. And I think we need to tell AI that we want a little bit of refinement there. And this is the kind of iterative cycle that we get into with AI driven development is, we do one thing and wait, that doesn't look quite right. So let's move on to the next thing and tweak that. And you get into this kind of like vibe state, if you will, where you're kind of going through all of this stuff. Do you want to tell it to fix that for us?
Yeah. And it doesn't really matter too much like how you tell it to do it. Generally, as long as you're telling it in a way that's instructive, it's going to be fine. And there are adjustments that you can make and nuances that you can learn about, which I'm hoping we'll be able to go through in our videos soon. But yeah, generally, you just want to give it an instruction like you would with anyone and just make sure that it's clear. So for this one, if I'm thinking about it, there's now this blank space to the right of Friday. Please, can you make sure that the days reach the full width of the screen? And that should be fine. I mean, if I thought about it more, I could probably think of a nicer prompt. But yeah, I think generally it's going to be okay.
Yeah. And one of the things I love when I'm kind of working with AI, particularly in this kind of manner, is screenshots. That's a really powerful tool because AI doesn't have eyes. It can't see that at the minute. It's just analyzing the code. So it should figure it out, but it doesn't always understand. It does in this case, which is great. But sometimes you can just take a screenshot, feed it through to the AI, and then it's going to see what's happening and maybe approach it from a different angle. But that's so much nicer, right?
Much, much nicer. Yeah. And yeah, like you say, AI is actually really good at reading the screenshots, so reading the text on them. I experimented with something yesterday, which was where I drew a rectangle on the screen. And I said, I want you to put something where this rectangle is. AI got it completely wrong. So that's not the way to go. And I learned that yesterday. I thought, hey, why not? Let's put a rectangle. Maybe now we can annotate things and it will understand. But no, it's better to give it your screenshot and then talk about your screenshot.
Yeah, definitely. Why don't we look at the light and dark mode next then? I think I love a dark mode, and I know a lot of the developers do, but some people like to burn their eyes with bright colors and white. So why don't we look at that?
All right. So what we're going to do is we're happy with what it's done so far. We'll click on keep and then we will create a new chat because we don't want to use the existing context. We've talked about this before. We don't want it to use what we've talked about before. We want to do something fresh. And I'll just close out that file because that's irrelevant for now. So Josh, if you wanted to implement light and dark mode in this app, how would you phrase it?
If we were describing it, I would probably just start with, I want to implement a light and dark mode in the app. A really simple prompt, but I'd maybe tweak that slightly to say, don't assume anything and ask me questions around the feature, just so that we can tease out the questions I just don't have in my brain at the minute and see what it says.
Sounds good. Let's give that a go. So this is now where we're approaching a different type of prompting that we haven't done before, which is where we're getting Claude to have a conversation with us.
Exactly. And you can see there as the output, it's given us some questions that in my mind make perfect sense. So question 1, default theme. Should the app default to light mode, dark mode, or automatically detect the user's system preference? I mean, in my mind, I'd love it to detect the user's system preference. I don't know if that's going to work in a code app, but it'd be awesome to try it out.
It should work fine. And the other thing is, sorry to interrupt, but when you're going through these answers, you don't have to answer in full sentences. AI is really clever. So like if we wanted to answer this one, we might as well answer them while we go. So we can just say 1, which is this one, and then we could just copy that, detect the user's system preference, and we're done. And then if I hold down Shift and press Enter, I'll go to a new line in the chat and we can move on to number 2.
What do we think? Should the theme persist through local storage or sessions? I think it should persist, shouldn't it?
Yeah, that makes sense in local storage. So, local storage, for people who don't know, that means that it'll be saved to the browser itself. So, if you go on another computer and you load up the same app with the same user, it won't load those preferences. So, it's specific to that browser. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a good idea. The other way of doing it, of course, is that maybe we could save it in Dataverse and we could load it. Then it would persist across computers. But I think this is a nice way. So to answer this one, all I would just say is yes.
3, where do we want the toggle to appear? And there's a few options here. I mean, my preference here would probably be in the navbar somewhere, be that on the side or at the top. Charles, have you got any preference?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Maybe just under settings. So this is asking us header navbar. So we'll just say navbar under settings and we'll see what it comes up with.
Yeah. Toggle style, that's quite neat. So we can kind of specify how we want the toggle style to be. Again, Charles, you got any preference on that?
I have an accessibility preference on that, and that is that if it does have a sun and moon icon, that it still needs to specify dark and light mode. So it needs to tell the user. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we start talking about accessibility a little bit more now, but definitely the most accessible approach would be best with me as well.
Cool. Let's try icon with text.
We're using CSS files for our project and styling approach. So how do we want to actually approach that using a UI library and a couple other things? And these might not make sense if you're not from, pro dev kind of world. So how would you kind of approach that one?
Looking at our package.json, so to explain to people what that is, that's telling us what packages we have installed from our Node package manager. So when we were setting up things in the beginning, we were talking about packages where you can install packages of things to help you. They're kind of like extensions or add-ons. It's that type of thing. One of those ones that we have is Tailwind CSS. CSS stands for cascading style sheets. It's basically just your styling. And Tailwind is a library to help you with that. It's a way to make the formatting, it should be more maintainable. So because we have Tailwind CSS, what I usually do in this situation is I say I want it to use Tailwind CSS and follow best practices. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, I would agree. We're already using a package to manage our CSS to make it easier to maintain. We should be following that approach. And again, you wouldn't necessarily know that if you've never done this stuff before, but this is why we're here. We're here to help. And that's definitely one area that you should be following is, these apps get provisioned with Tailwind. Use it, it's going to help, and your code's going to be a lot more cleaner and readable going forward.
Yeah, and also the agent, when it's looking at your code base, if it sees that you've been using Tailwind, it will continue that. So if you start off your app and you don't implement a nice structure initially, the agent's going to struggle. It's going to see that you've got a mix of normal CSS styles and you've got Tailwind classes. It's going to get confused and it will probably do a mix of both. And to be honest, because we did this as a one prompt thing, it's probably already done that kind of thing. We've probably got some really messy code, but we'll show you in the future how you can do proper planning so you avoid having this messy code that's more difficult to maintain. But you can also see that the app is decent and our code doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on to number 6, which folder? I don't really have any preference on that.
Sorry, this is my fault, kind of, because we have episode folders that we're storing in GitHub so that people can follow along. I'm just going to say ignore the episode folders.
Transition effect. I think we should have a transition effect, don't you? It's one of the things that I always wish we had more of in Canvas apps without having to do kind of weird and wonderful workarounds. So to have transition effects out of the box, fantastic. Let's do it.
And then scope.
Is there anything you think that we shouldn't be? I don't think so. Let's just roll with it.
No, it's an interesting question. I would have never thought of that. And that, again, is where AI is so cool with these things. It comes up with thoughts that we wouldn't think of ourselves. In this case, we don't care, but maybe we would.
Yeah. And I think this just proves the power of actually asking AI these questions as well. Like, what do you think? Or don't just assume, ask me. And it's going to go away and think about it, come back. So you're going to be able to build better apps.
So Josh, now that we've answered the questions, would you add anything else to that prompt? Like, would you tell it, similarly to how you said before, ask me questions around the feature? Do we need to do that kind of thing? Or do you feel like this is a good kind of breakpoint and we just tell it that?
Yeah, I think it depends. In some instances, I would definitely be asking more questions back or to play it back and think if there's anything else that needs added. In this scenario, I would argue that this is probably okay, but I also know that it's probably going to do something a bit weird and wonderful if we just go ahead with it. So I'm keen to do it because I'm keen to see if it figures out what it does. And yeah, I'm really interested. Let's see.
So while it's doing that, I wanted to just talk a little bit about context. So we've had a little bit of a back and forth with the agent. And as we're going back and forth, the agent's going to start building up a memory of what we've been talking about. And the more memory that it builds up, the closer it will get towards reaching its memory limit. And you want to make sure that you never reach that memory limit, because when you reach that, it will have to compress its memories in order to have space for more memories, which means that it starts to get dumber and dumber. So the way that we've done it here, it's been relatively simple. So we're happy just to get the implementation in the same place that we've planned it. But if we're doing longer planning sessions, we would typically want to save the plan somewhere for the next agent or the next session to then implement that plan.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to approach this from one prompt, as nice as it is to know that you can build it. Your planning should be the majority of the work that you do before you even start building or getting AI to build. There should be really comprehensive files in place to let AI build the best app that it can. So yeah, food for thought there. And I can see there, it's not just gone and done it, has it? It's actually come back with some more questions for us.
Yep, it's not sure about some things. So the settings panel, it's saying that it doesn't seem to have active functionality. So would we like a drop-down menu to appear when clicking on settings, or a separate settings page view, or a modal drawer that slides in? I'm thinking that it's got a bit confused about us talking about
So,
settings.
yeah. Yeah. So we need to clarify that and just say we don't want to affect the settings. We just want it to appear underneath the settings.
I always say please as well, because believe it or not, this can actually matter. Probably not in this context, but if the agent starts to detect that you're getting frustrated, it will then act in a way that it's trying to appease you, and it will try to not upset you, which will tend to give you worse results. So don't get upset with the agent and start being rude to it, because you'll get worse results. So it's also a lesson in being kind.
I think for two, we've already answered that. So we can just say as above, unless you feel there's anything else we need to add to that.
Yeah, so it says within the settings area. Okay, it should not, let me just talk to it, right?
Yeah.
It should not be in the settings area. The theme toggle is going to be just below the settings button. Icon preference.
So I think this is kind of what we spoke about briefly on accessibility as well, kind of how it should work.
So it's asking, like, should it show a sun, for example, when it's in light mode, or should it show a sun when it's in dark mode, because you'll click on the sun to get to light mode? Now, what I usually do with these kinds of things, now I have my opinion as to what I think is best, but this AI agent knows a lot more than I do about this side of things. And unless I feel really confident in my decision, one of the things I might do is I might say, follow best practices. And honestly, that often gives you a really good result. What do you think, Josh?
I would agree. Some of these things, we're not experts in everything. We're not going to be able to know the answer. So what AI can do is it can trawl all of the resources available to it and find what would probably be the best practice for that particular thing. So we're not saying tell it to follow best practice for everything, because that's not always the way it works. Probably get a bit confused. But something like that, it's very kind of specific, perfect example to say use best practice.
And so with the three-way toggle, so it's basically saying, do we want to have just light and dark, or do we want to have light, dark, and system? So system meaning that whatever we set in Windows, it's going to follow that. Now, my preference for this is just to keep it simple and light and dark. I don't think it's really that important to have one where you click on system and then it's going to follow your operating system. Because once you've clicked on light and dark, then you're choosing something specific, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Keep it simple. We don't need another toggle.
Just light and dark, please. All right, let's see what happens. So now it's saying that it's happy and it's going to implement it, but it's also giving us a plan. So it's saying that it needs to create a theme provider, because React uses a theme provider. And then it's saying that it's going to add the toggle button below the settings button. It's going to update the CSS and the HTML to support Tailwind. So it all sounds really good to me so far.
Now let's see what it does, and hopefully it'll give us a nice shiny new feature at the end of this. So after a good few minutes, it looks like it's finished. It definitely took its time, but it's not a small feature really. There's a lot to implement as part of the light and dark modes feature. Should we take a look and see if it works?
Let's do that. And before we judge it, I'm going to do a hard refresh on it because there's a chance that something's cached and it won't work properly first time. Okay, so we have this dark mode button down here. I can zoom in a little bit. And if I click on it,
Nothing
well,
happens.
the button changes and it looks very nice. All right, we need to reprompt. The button is working to toggle the button between light and dark mode, but the app itself is not changing to light mode.
Now it's going to go away and it's going to do some troubleshooting. It's going to try and figure out where the issue is and how it can be resolved. It's like it's whirling away. It's found something. Here we go. It said it's done it already. Should we try again? Oh,
Whoa. I'm going to do a hard refresh again. It looks like the button disappeared. Yeah, goodbye button.
so we're 2 steps forward, 1 step back here. So let's go again.
The app is now in light mode, but the button has disappeared. So it's saying that the button's invisible. I did wonder that. That's why when I came here, I hovered over it. But because it's a button, it doesn't have to change to a pointer. It has to change to a pointer when it's a link, but not necessarily with a button. So like for this, it's changing to a pointer. We're changing to the hand, but for that one, it's not. But now it is actually showing us the button. And if we click on it, it's changing to dark mode. So it's working. What do you think of the light mode design?
Yeah, I would say there needs to be some adjustments. It's not very accessible to my eyes. There's some contrast issues. It's just needing a little helping hand to get it to a place that I feel like I'd be happy with it. What do you think?
100%. Yeah, as someone who really cares about accessibility, there's some atrocious color contrast here. Like if we look at the Friday one, the selected day, daily total is not very good. But the 0 hours, I mean, can you even read that? Probably not. It's really bad. And just generally the style of it. Yeah, we need to improve the contrast, but things like this dashboard button just doesn't look very good. So it's done an okay-ish job. But to me, what this is highlighting is that we've created this app through this one prompt shot, which wasn't really the best way of doing things. In fact, it was a terrible way of doing things, but it was nice to show off that it can be done. What we would do in the real world is we would go through this planning phase where we would plan out the design and we wouldn't just go to the AI, build me a light mode. And the light mode that we'd have at this stage would look beautiful by this point. Any comments on that, Josh?
Yeah, I would agree. Planning is the key when it comes to this type of thing with AI assisted development. You need to have a good plan. And what's great is you can use AI to help you with that plan. You can tell it, help me with this plan. What do I need to consider? It's going to ask all the questions you need to get you going. So by the time you want you to hit start development, it's going to build this really beautiful app that is near enough perfect from the get-go. What you're seeing now is a result of our lack of planning. So there is a term for it, which I probably shouldn't mention on the video because it's got swear words in it and I wouldn't want to deter any viewers. But proper planning prevents poor performance. That's what we're trying to do here. So you need to properly plan to get the best out of it. So I think this leads us into a really good kind of what we're looking to do our next episode, which is actually fixing these accessibility issues. So we've kind of created some for ourselves here, but we both know as kind of accessibility nerds in a way that there was already some accessibility issues that we were looking to fix. So this just gives us some really good things to solve and we'll be able to prove that there are accessibility issues and how do you deal with them. So is there any other comments from you, Charles, before we finish up?
Yeah, just to say on that front that we're not going to just tell you another prompt in the next episode. We're going to show you a new technique that we haven't shown yet for doing that, which is really interesting. And it's a great way to do something that's really comprehensive. And just also on the design front. So this design, we can use other tools to plan the design in the first place. But just looking at this design right now, I know the contrast is an issue, but it's probably still a better app than 90% of the Canvas apps out there. Sorry to throw shade.
Absolutely agree with that. Yeah. And in a lot less effort as well. And that is us, I think.
Yeah. So thanks for watching, and we hope you liked it. Please subscribe, and also please put in the comments what you want us to cover as well. If there's something in particular that would really help you, we want to provide videos that are going to help you. So yeah, let us know. Thanks so much.
Thank you.